This is the Mountacoast C1, and it's Mountacoast's entry into the Super Trainer category. I'm super excited to try it out. It has a dual foam setup, so we've got some pretty soft foam here up on top that they're saying is going to be almost twice as durable as PEBA foam, so should be a very durable shoe, which is kind of Mountacoast's MO. And then we have a carrier foam, so a more substantially more dense foam down below. But you can see we have a very nice setup here where the big chunk here under the forefoot, all of this is that softer foam. And then your carrier foam is just more prominent in the back, but not as prominent in the forefoot. That should make it a really interesting setup. And then as always with Mountacoast, we have this dual lacing setup. So what we're gonna do today is go through, talk about fit and feel, do a walk test, and then I'm gonna run a mile at 10-minute pace, 8:30 pace, and something under 7-minute pace to see how it feels at different paces. If you've been on the channel before, you know that you get surprised sometimes where shoes do the best. I'm hopeful a shoe like this can do well across a lot of training categories because it has dense foam and it has some peppier foam. And especially if it lasts well, I could see this being a very good value option for people trying to get something that isn't as expensive as a Super Blast, but hopefully has a lot of similar properties. This is also going to be a 2-for-1 video, so we are doing the C1 review, and then we're also going to, in a separate video, review the R1 with the C1 and see how they stack up against one another. If that comparison's interesting to you, be sure to check out that video right after this one. So with that said, we're gonna hit some of the specs on the C1, and then we'll get it on foot and see how it feels. So for the weight of the shoe in a men's sample size 9, it's coming in at 9.2 ounces, which is relatively light for the category. So that's going to be lighter than a Brooks Hyperion Max or a Nike Zoom Fly, but it's going to be heavier than like a Super Blast or Mega Blast. So it falls pretty nicely in the middle of that category. I don't think it's crazy by any means, especially when you've got the Brooks Ghost still at like 10 plus ounces and a lot of your daily trainers in that 10 plus ounce category. So totally fine with the weight. I'm curious how it feels on foot, but shouldn't be anything super dramatic. For the heel to toe drop, we are at a 42 millimeter stack here in the back, 6 millimeter offset, bringing us to 36 here in the forefoot. And as I mentioned, it is a 180 price point. So I think that's pretty good. I do like the dual density foam setup as well. So you've got your super critical foam on top and then a rubberized EVA down below. So I think it will stay pretty true to Mountacoast's nature in that it is, I think, going to be really durable overall. And while the outsole is not a ton, it's not super built up here, we do have a few spots with some extra rubber coverage. So this different colored rubber right here, and all of this is some extra foam. You get more of it down here and here, whereas this, and this are all saving a little bit of weight with less rubber. Now, if you are a fan of the H1, this has that same circle cell foam here that is in the H1 for this top layer foam, but this obviously has more stacks, so we need a carrier to help stabilize it a little bit, especially for people wanting a shoe that can go really long distances. Having a carrier foam to stabilize things up means your foot has to do less work trying to stabilize. But if you like that circle cell foam from the H1, this should be pretty similar for you, just a little firm underfoot. Okay, so we are gonna go ahead and get these on foot. We're gonna talk about the upper primarily to start here. So we'll get these untied. One thing you will notice is they have a different lacing system than most people. Mountacoast has a lot of the ultra in them, ultra running background in them. So they know some folks are going to need to change how tightly fit the upper is during a run. So they do the quick lace down below and then a standard lacing up top. It takes just a little while to get used to, but you just kind of have to figure out where you want this lacing piece here to be in terms of tightness. So you just have to dial it in a little bit. Occasionally you have to finagle with it. Once you find the fit, it'll loosen out a little bit and then you got to tighten it up again, but not too bad. One thing I can already tell I like with this is it's very padded back through here. So I think what Mountacoast is going for with this is a shoe that can do a really long effort and leave you feeling pretty good afterwards. That's kind of where I think this is going. And I think they're doing a good job with the padding here. I like how it feels around my heel, just as an initial thought. So we'll snug it up. One thing I will say of note is on the R1, I actually don't runner's loop it, which I do with the vast majority of my shoes. I just always feel so locked in up here. I don't usually feel the need to runner's loop it, but you can if you want, as always. But a nice fitting upper, which I like. I will say this is really, really accommodating up here. So there's plenty of space, which again, Mount to Coast usually puts a good toe box in the shoe. Lots of space in the upper, but this is actually giving some pretty good volume upwards too. So if you have a wide foot, I think this will do well for you. But if you have a high volume foot as well, I think this could be a really good option. I'm going to go ahead and pull you closer so you can see this lacing system. So when you are going to do this, I usually unclip this little hook from here, and then you can pull through as much of this fabric as you want, and it bunches up a little bit here, actually, which I don't remember the R1 doing, but seems like we're getting a little bit. Again, I don't have the most voluminous foot in the world or the widest foot in the world, but you know, I don't know that this is really going to bother me. It seems like there's enough space that it's going to be okay. But then you get a little fabric here and you're A-okay. You're good. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And that is as long as that needs to take. It is a pretty easy process once you get the hang of it. And we are good to go. We'll get some foot bouncing and pushing down here on the foot to see how the foam is responding. All right, so squish test, not a ton. It is not the softest in the world. It is interestingly softer in the forefoot than it is in the heel. Obviously with that bigger chunk of the circle cell foam up top, it's a little bit softer, but we're gonna go ahead and get a walk test and then we will get into the run. All right, walk test time. It doesn't feel like overly cushy, which feels kind of like what Mount to Coast does. But I do like it. Again, as with Mount to Coast's MO, you get quite a bit of arch support here. I can feel that pretty dramatically. I will give the walk test a thumbs up. So with our cheeky walk test out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and hop into this first part of the run. We got 10-minute pace right now, and we'll be on a mix of pavement here, and then we've got some gravel road up ahead. So we'll see how it does. So just very, very, very first thoughts. It would be interesting to see how this ends up breaking in, because the R1, I thought had like a really long break-in period. So if this has a break-in and softens up in the same way, I could see this one getting better with time. Just a little more than a half mile in, we are around pace, 9:36, and it is feeling like a normal shoe. Nothing like ridiculously mind-blowing as of yet, but a lot of shoes don't at this pace for me. So this is a very comfy, cruisy pace. And I feel like I like this really soft feel at this pace, but when I start going faster, sometimes having more of that response, that firmer feel, can actually feel better. So just gonna keep the mind open for this first bit. Okay, 9:41 for that first mile. Nothing super stood out at me. My hot take is I could see this being a really good shoe for something like the Blue Ridge Relay. So if anybody isn't familiar, it's the span of the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina and Virginia. And it is kind of a staged race in that, like, you have a team of so many people, and that can vary, but you do different segments. So segment could be kind of short or it could be kind of long. And you, as a runner, are going to do multiple segments throughout that race. that feels like where this could be really, really good. It could be enough shoe where you're getting like plenty of energy return from it. I think the run repeat numbers will be really high. I could see it being a stable enough platform. So that's something I'll overlay right now is you can see just how wide the platform is, and Mount to Coast does a great job with that because they know people doing really long distances are going to want to have a wider silhouette on the bottom so their foot doesn't have to do as much of that stabilizing work. You get a good carrier foam, so you have some stability and durability, and then I think fatigue resistance where the foam won't compress from a ton of time on feet. That kind of thing seems like where this could be really good. On to the 830 paced mile. I think that'll give us a good sense of where this might feel nice as a daily runner for me. So most of my running is around the 830 pace. And after this, because we're doing a total of 10 miles today, we're gonna pop another GU. So I'm gonna keep doing these GU reviews as we go. So whether it's GU or Carbs Fuel or SIS or what have you, we're gonna keep doing them because I think they're fun. And we are off on this next run. So with some rolling hills here, we've gone a couple of different paces. I was down at 9-minute pace. I was up to 7:50, I think, for just a sec there. Right now we're at 8:27, nicely settled into where we're supposed to be. And feels very good. Still nothing like overly stand out. I said the arch was pretty pronounced in the walk test. Feels just really nice here, not overstated as we're running. So good to that as well. We'll just have to see how it feels as we start getting even faster. Does some of that supercritical foam there at the front, the circle cell foam, really give us some pop? Especially I'm curious on the pavement as opposed to the gravel. Okay, so an 8:35 there. The watch is being silly with where it is lapping. So I'm having to keep an eye on that manually. But like I said there, nothing overly dramatic. If you like the feel in the R1 with that arch profile, I think that'll be a carryover here. I want to feel both of them on foot. So as I said, I'm doing that comparison next. But I think on foot, it'll have some similarities and some differences. But for the C1, still feeling like a normal, cushiony, a little bit on the firm side trainer for me right now. Which, you know, given the state of things and where price points are going, that's also what you're paying for like a Glycerin GTS. So, I don't know. Worth having in the conversation, certainly. As promised, a GU review, the strawberry banana flavor. So this is one that I like quite a lot. And as you guys know, I like GUs when I'm not working super duper hard. So a stop in between, I think, counts for that. Strawberry banana. Man, GUs, you just feel like you have to almost chew it when you get the GU in your mouth. But I still love it. I like the texture. Now, the strawberry banana doesn't really taste like strawberries or banana to me, but it does taste like saltwater taffy, which I love. So if you like saltwater taffy, the strawberry banana GU is absolutely worth the go. As always, we don't leave trash out, so we're throwing this in the car. So with the GU down, it is time for us to get our fast mile here and see how it feels as we start to speed up a little more. If we feel like we're really getting some pop out of this supercritical foam, or if it is still just waiting to break in and soften up and be more lively. I'm hopeful it just feels poppy. That would be ideal. Half mile in, still at 6:42. Better on the pavement for sure. That's where this is feeling better. The outsole obviously wasn't a ton, but the energy return, felt better. Definitely needs a bit of force to get it to compress. So yeah, feeling good here. Excited to finish this mile off back over on the pavement. Well, if that lap split isn't just annoying. I was running 6:47 at the end. Started off going 6:15. I was just kind of checking where I was at in between and didn't think the way I set this workout up would give me that problem, but I think for the reviews, I need to not try and do chorus workouts. I think I need to just do it as open laps and I can see what I need to from there. Now for the shoe, I am pretty impressed with it. It feels like a firmer tank option, so it doesn't give Superblast vibes. Different kinds of shoe. Superblast is like as playful as a shoe can get, at least in my opinion. It is light, airy, and this is very light, but it feels light and dense, if that feels like it makes any sort of sense. I think it's going to do a great job breaking in. That is my too early take here. I think just the way it feels like it should have more give and spring and pop. And, you know, 6:47 isn't anywhere near an all-out mile for me, but it's fast. And I like shoes that can do a lot. I think this could do those easy pace as well and protective and be durable for long times on feet, which again is what the brand is going for. So I think they get a big check mark for accomplishing the goal they set out to. And I think it will only get better with time. This feels like a shoe I'm likely going to do a 100-mile review on. Maybe not as fast as the Superblast, but it feels like it's giving me enough oomph where I'm going to want to pull for it. Like, I like the R1 because it has so much ground feel. This doesn't have that same ground feeling, but it's just nice in so many different ways. With that said, we're going to go over and do a quick debrief, and then we're going to get into the C1 R1 review. So make sure you hop over to that video as well. Okay, that was 4:27 for about 80 meters. About 80 meters. Okay, so first run thoughts on the C1. I like it. It is a protective feeling shoe. Doesn't feel like one you're going to be able to flatten. So some shoes feel like you can flatten them early. That was like my only real qualm with the Superblast, right? Is I thought it softened out over the course of 100 miles where it was like good soft at the start and it still is good soft at the end, but it doesn't have as much pop. This feels like it might be a little firm, but protective, and I think it might soften up to be like a really good in between of firm and soft, but still protective. Seems like this shoe is going to go for quite a long time on the longevity scale. Now, to the PIBA-like energy return comment, I've got a little bit of a harder time believing that. That it doesn't feel like a shoe that has PIBA foam in it, right? Like my Hoka Skyward X, I feel that really soft, plush bounce pop. That actually feels like a really good comparison here. Skyward X and the C1 here. This is lighter than the C1. The C1 has that carbon like torsion bar. It's not like a carbon plate, but they both have some differences. But if you want the most analogous shoe, the most comparable, I think that's where this would fall in. Now, with the Hoka Skyward X, I actually think this would also fall in pretty similarly with the Salomon Aeroglide. So I think similar stack heights between the two of them. I think energy return numbers will probably be similar, pretty long or pretty good longevity wise. I think a lot of those could be really good. This could be really, really good for somebody who knows they need a more accommodating fit. being that this is so like spacious up here. Now for the C1, one other shoe that I'm really curious about and will likely do a review on is going to be the C1 versus maybe the Vomero Plus. I actually did get a pair, so I can do a Vomero Plus versus Super Blast. I can do a C1 versus Vomero Plus, and then I think I'm going to do a really cool video. Let me know if you think this would be helpful, comparing like the Hoka Skyward X, the C1, the Vomero Plus, the Nike Zoom Fly, the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, and I think I've got one or two more in there that would be worthwhile to have in the conversation. Also, actually, I think the Vomero would also be in a similar category here, being pretty high stack, not like a workout style shoe, but a good shoe. Yeah. Now, where would this fit in a rotation, and is it worth the price tag at $180? In a rotation, this could be a one shoe, so I think this would be fine to be as a like intro shoe for somebody who wants a protective shoe that they think will last a long time. That's why I sell the R1 a lot, is I think it is a really durable, long-lasting shoe you can put a lot of miles on, not quite as protective. But anyhow, where would it be in like a two-shoe rotation? Being a super trainer, man, I would have a hard time. I think this would actually stay in the daily world, and I would want something more aggressive for workout days. I don't think this is something I'm trying to crank like, I don't know, mile repeats in, like real effort mile repeats. I don't know if it's where I would want to do 400s or strides in them. Again, like R1 does good on strides. Stability concerns, I'm not sure if I'm going to be really big on the stability frontier. As in, like, I don't think I would really be pulling it for somebody who's overpronating a bunch. It does have that good arch support, but if you need like real stability, like go for your Kayano or your Glycerin GTS or what works for you. Don't think you really need an insert with it. Overall, I'm going to say like pretty well done, especially like doing what they set out to do, having a durable shoe that feels good and has more like energy return, where like I think workout wise, if you were doing some longer duration work where you're like, I don't know, not threshold, but like somewhere where you're doing extended efforts, maybe like 10 minutes on and then a couple minutes recovery in between, I think it could do a workout like that pretty well and leave you feeling okay the next day. So overall, yeah, I think they did what they set out to do with it. Well done on that front. Next, if you want to watch the next video, we're going to compare these two shoes and I'll tell you more about both of them. As always, if these reviews are helpful, feel free to take a look at the Ontos running brand. That's this brand right here. That is my brand. I've been trying really hard. The deposits are in for the hats as well, so the final samples were good except for one thing, which got fixed. And we are in production, so that is incredibly exciting. With that said, I'll see you guys in that R1 C1 comparison video. See you there.